Okay. Hello, welcome to 365 Days Towards Racial Change. This is day 108, but it's a day late. So you might get a twofer today, but that's okay. I'm human. Hey, 107 straight days. Wow. I'm impressed with myself. You do what you want. But we're here talking about Black issues in America, racial issues, racism, and slavery, history. Economics comes into play, politics, big, big portion of this. And through this project, two interesting thoughts have emerged in my mind. There may be more later on, but we're halfway through. I want to do a little bit of housekeeping as far as I'm going to see if I can speed things up. I'm going to stick to the daily schedule. But I missed yesterday. Let me just tell you a quick story. I'm enrolling back into college, determined to finish my degree. It's not necessary actually for the success direction in which my life is kind of moving at this point. Uh, but I'm finding I value completion, and it's not. It bugs me not to complete. I noticed, oh, a decade or so ago, I wasn't completing. I could start things all over. I got a pile of books here in my apartment that I started, you know, but I'm not finishing things. And I need to get things finished, done, completed, write them off, because they rent space in my mind. So getting back to college, but that took longer than I thought and wasn't as productive as I wanted to be. Uh, no surprises there. It's life. But it really ran me down. Work ran late, and as our volume at this logistics company was just off the charts lately, so just took a lot of energy out of me. So I slept right through. And I say that, we're here in America, and this is the crux of the project, essentially. You know, Black folks were already marginalized. We experienced racism. We were oppressed economically. We're under duress, under strain, bearing the dysfunction of the nation, all these negatives against us. Not excluding our superstars and bright lights and entertainment, talk show hosts, sports people, and stuff like that. But not enough common Black folks are experiencing what common white folks experience, and people of other tongues and nationalities, the Asians, Arabs, and Hispanics. Okay, it's not hate speech. I'm just talking about what's real. Hate is what we've been subjected to, and we're under constant siege and attack, and not enough Black people are aware. I was aware, I just couldn't articulate it. We're going to get to the man who helped my awareness and my awakening here in America. Thank God for him. But back to my first two thoughts. First thought has two parts. First part is the slave mind conditioning for Black folks still prevailing, still getting passed down from generation to generation. Are we perpetuating a racial dysfunction among us? That's important to think about. The second part, uh, conversely, same coin, do white people intuitively grasp entitlement? Is their environment conducive to white folks expecting favor in every circumstance, to kind of walk around the earth with a free pass? Stick around, you know where I feel about that, but I just want you to think about these two things. You know, think about me, Tomlin's Nyback, as I go out into the world and I'm interacting and I'm seeing things. Oh, like this morning on my way home from work, I work nights. Probably would prefer not to, but I don't know, it's working out now. I sit behind a white lady on the train. She moves her space a seat up. Is she making a statement about me? Does she just want a different seat? That I Is it about me being black, a black man sitting behind her? That I go through that type of discourse in my mind, that's a problem. You know, why am I going through that in my mind? What's happened uh, in my life and in my space that makes me do that? Now, conversely, there's times where I don't feel comfortable. I don't like to be downwind of smoke. I don't smoke anymore. So I do move around, and I wonder if people think, is it something about them? I will say, if I am in a space and a person comes near me and I move, then I'm probably, it's probably about them that I'm moving. I'm not confrontational unless they encroach. Uh, so yeah, so I'm feeling like the white woman that moved her seat away from me had issues with the black man behind her. Okay, like, especially if you're black, you understand what I'm talking about. Oh, okay. My second thought is about economics. It's about financial literacy. It's about black people understanding how their dollar works or not in America, how their dollar has less buying power, less power in America's economic landscape. How other people get economic favors before black folks. Oh, things like that. The literacy, understanding business structures, corporate entities, what type of entity, being entrepreneurs, more of us focusing, being an entrepreneurial community culture. Oh, we're not. We want to uh, be business owners, want to make big dollars. But here's the thing, and I'm going to tell you this, and this is something that I'm going to forward. I'm going to, well, I'm not going to go into much, but I've had my desire for economic success, the know-how, backwards. You know, the stuff I've been reading, the people, Robert Kiyosaki, and some of the internet videos, it says, you know, for uh, the big names we think about as far as the money makers, our billionaires, essentially you've got to understand they don't care if they're selling ice cream, thumbtacks, tires, legal services. It doesn't matter to an investor, an entrepreneur. I'm talking the big heavyweights. They form the corporate structure and dump the product or service into that and allow it to grow. It's a very agricultural picture. You don't uh, get your finished product, corn, peas, whatever, and then plant the soil. You get the soil, the foundation for, you don't, like, you don't start a bank, you don't take piles of money and you sit it there, and for a little while and then build your brick and mortar around it. No, you got a safe. The things are more electronic, but you know what I mean. The liquid is you get a safe first, then you bring the money in. That's what the powerful, rich, and elite are about. They can be dealing in gold, selling uh, cotton, sports drinks, phones. That's just That's the stuff. They really don't care. They don't care about the product that like we would think they do. You know, it's not like that. Not for the wealthy. And these people we don't see. We have no idea the societies, the affluence, the people exercising power in this nation. We're just clueless. And I'm trying to, we need, blacks need to communicate that, understand that about living in America. I'm inspired. Let's get to my inspiration. I don't want to get rambling here. A lot of things going on. Oh, shame to be an American. Oh, this the world's looking at us this soap opera. Boy, they must be laughing at America. You know, whatever regimes are outside our borders, at least they're consistent. You know, we got uh, all my children, days of our lives, General Hospital going on here in America, big time. It's sad. I'm inspired. I was finally uh, uh, invigorated and enlivened by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson, and he speaks eloquently about these issues that we talk about here. We're going through a little political series right now, but we're going to get back to Dr. Anderson's work uh, with vigor as soon as we're done. First work I read of his was a Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. I want you to get these books maybe later in the year as we finish up. I'll do my best. Maybe I'll make them available as a prize for participation or something. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice, and Poweronomics. Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America. You can find Dr. Claude Anderson at poweronomics.com and the Heritage Institute. And when I say you can find him, I mean, that's his websites and stuff. I've never talked to the guy. Uh, if you can catch up with him, tell him Tomlin's and I back on YouTube sent you. We'll also take a fictional look at slave life in America, mid 1800s, Harriet Beecher Stowe's incredible work. I'm almost finished reading it, but we just have story time. Again, get the book. Behind me, hashtag us too. Response to hashtag Me Too movement. Females with their issues and stuff. There are some differences, male, female. I cannot speak authoritatively about female issues and um, their marginalization simply because of their sex. So that's I don't understand why it goes both ways, but in support of Black women here at hashtag us too. Please check them out. Get you know find a community for you. Also check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, and it's kind of a Black Facebook. Uh, and if you found me here on YouTube, then you're electronically, technologically literate. You can find your community. I encourage you to get the support you help you need, whether you're gay, white, Hispanic, Black, Asian, entrepreneur, health care, whatever it is, information age, boom, and it's been an explosion, and I'm just catching up with it. Here we go. We're still going on. This is day 108, remember. So this should have been Thursday. I want to take a break, and we can knock out Fridays later on this evening. Okay, day 108. We come to Robert Morris and John Morton. Um, both of these men were involved in Pennsylvania politics. We got a pair of Pennsylvanians here. I like that pair of Pennsylvanians here, and I'm sure you can imagine both their lives centered in Philly and stuff like that. It's a big state, though. We'll start with Robert Morris, born 1734, died 1806. He was a senator, Pennsylvania. Um, Enlisted as superintendent of finance, along with some other guys, Benjamin Harris, and I forget the other gentleman. Remember, we are referencing Wikipedia. I'm not doing any in-depth biographies of these guys. You can look up, find your flavor. We're just looking for relationships between slavery, their signing, and stuff like that. How can you separate yourself from the oppressor and then turn and become the oppressor? You're oppressed, you free yourself, and then you turn 180 degrees and you oppress a people simply on the skin color alone. That's not fair. It's life. Don't get me on a tangent here. Superintendent of Finance, a lot of our present financial system in America is related. A lot of roots of what we do in America, of course, comes right back to these founding fathers, the framers, and their involvement with the Declaration. That's why I think this series is important. I want you to think. I heard this years ago. I think it's true. Think of America as a business. Our president is the CEO. He's accountable to shareholders. Each of us, in a sense, are shareholders. We don't have we don't have a whole lot of control. I do some investing. I'm more just saving. I'm just getting getting my feet wet with financial language and markets and things like that. But they've got it, since it's electronic now, they've got it down to fractional shares to these companies and stuff like that. They want me to vote and all that, and I'm like, I'm talking to my mentor, like, dude, I got a fraction of a share. What more can I say? I mean, that with investments, they have real shareholders, people with thousands, hundreds of thousands of shares in the company. They're doing that. But it's good to see what's happening. I get notified when voting. They want my vote, even though it's a fraction of a fraction. It's 3 and 4 decimals of a share. So I think I got one full share in gold. But I say in the superintendent of finance, Robert Morris, senator, Pennsylvania. He's listed as having heavy influence on our present financial discourse here in America. He studied shipping and banking. I correlated that to, like, today, if you get into tech and finance, you get the vehicle and you understand the language, all that, and growth and business and all that. These are the things a lot of these men were into. The men were politicians, but they had businesses, and I guess rightly so. It wasn't like a whole lot of common guys like me, blue collar, coming up through the ranks and stuff like that. These guys were in business, so their businesses, those entities, were working in such a way that they can in turn support these guys going to their congresses and confederations and things like that. So, there's your prime example, and we find this over and over again. This is corporate America, where in the literature I've been reading, that's how the wealthy, the super rich do it. They create an entity, a slave, if you will. That's what the slave was. The slave belonged to somebody and did all kinds of work, turned in that work. The master or owner profited, and because that slave is out there in the burning heat, giving their life, that owner can participate and have balls and travel, be involved in politics, and direct policy. You know, that's what's going on. You know, so and also this is before more of the aggressive taxation on American folks began. You know, we couldn't do a whole lot of taxation of our own people as we were fighting taxation of the British. You know, once we got severed from Britain's taxation, as the nation grew, the government wanted to be more permanent in place and centralized, and so they create their own taxes. I mean, it's incredible. Like we sit around blindly thinking we're so free, but you know, we got rid of one tax man on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean just to have a tax man here at home. Uh, uh, but that's a whole nother discussion. Episcopalian, Senator Morris. You know, slaves at this time, slaves. There was a 7 Years' War. It was kind of a world war, if you will, mostly in Europe, but it did spill over into the colonies. There were a lot of fighting going on, probably in relation to the discovery of wealth over here, land over here. And so what happened was the Wikipedia anyway shows indentured servants, the indentured servants industry was wrapping up, coming to a close, collapsing. And now that would have been devastating for the colonies, um, in that there goes your labor, you know, and that was labor they paid for. Now with the influx of free slave labor, oh, you know, it's you revived. Everything is revived. Now there you will find if you do some research. I came across this earlier in our series that this influx of slaves was a problem. They were bringing too many slaves, and it made the colonists a little jittery. They were outnumbered sometimes 4 or 5 to 1 here in the colonies. You know, slow ass musket, boom. Then it takes time. You got to reload it and tear this off and put this in and try to reload it. Boom. You see how long that took? You have niggas all over you by that point. Which is, oh, okay, don't get me started about why this black man submitted to that. You know, I might take a bullet. Like if I could do the calculus and the math, and if the conditioning hadn't set in yet, you know, I'll take a bullet. Maybe, I don't know. You other guys rush him as he's trying to reload and do this and like that. By the time he does all that, 3 or 4 of you guys can get him. Damn. Oh, so we find that he signed. Let me get on with this. Rising taxes, tensions, you know, skirmishes. The American Revolution history has a lot of that stuff. I'm not really looking for that there. Now, so that was his answer. He was Episcopalian, didn't impact his view of slavery. Um, Now he was in Pennsylvania, so I don't have him listed as necessarily a slave owner being up north. His political resume seems pretty involved and intense, and maybe he didn't have a whole lot of time to do that. He signed um, hesitantly. Some of the signers were like, you know, let's think about this. You know, it wasn't as though 56 men came in mass all on the same page. Some men were slow, and they debated about that. Of course, they went to war. But he favored loyalty, but he did the people's will, kind of caved in. Next gentleman, John Morton, born 1724, died 1777, didn't see a whole lot of fruit of his labor, of the risk and all that. Another Pennsylvania gentleman, he was a judge. Um, he too was kind of, in a divided state about loyalties and things like that. Um, he was an Anglican. The Anglicans, this may be the first Anglican we find uh, in our series here. Anglican, they were tied very much to the Church of England and all that. Not sure what all that is about. Everybody says they got the Bible. The Anglicans, Congregationalists, the Episcopalians, Presbyterians, and Ordinarians, and aliens, and stuff like that believe the Bible and stuff like that. There's just some divisions around liturgy in the church, church government, allegiances, loyalties to a bishop, pope, or autonomous congregations and all that. Anyway, um, also I want to add that he had Swiss heritage, Switzerland allegiances there. No slave history, and he signed as the will of the people of Pennsylvania. Uh, Very important for him. So these two Pennsylvanians, you know, had their history, had their time. Pennsylvania, Philly um, was the capital of the nation for a long time, and the capital also was where the center of slave trade. Now watch this, capital, right? The slaves are capital in the capital, right? I hope I spelled it right in my notes. There's some differences. When the capital of the nation moved to D.C., the center of slave trade, slaves being capital, moved with it. And capital, is the what you use for investments, what you use to increase wealth. The capital of a nation is probably where the financial center of that nation lies as well. It was especially true back then. With the digital age, it's less centralized. When for 9/11, that was pretty brutal. On humanity, the whole world. You're sad to be a human at that point. You know, Nations have done things against nations, but putting the morality issue aside, uh, much of the financial happenings of the nation, Wall Street and things like that, happened there in New York. And, so that devastation, you just went to the heart, ripped the guts out of the financial life of America. Whole companies were vaporized in an instant on that day. Wow. Uh, Interesting. So that's where we are, two Pennsylvanians. And so this is Thursday's offering. You're going to get a twofer later on. I'm going to take a nap. I got to juggling some stuff and getting my head around starting school again. But thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for being patient. I'm almost glad I failed on the day of this daily thing. Says I'm human, and life is happening for me just like everybody else. Pleasure to be with you again. That's day 108 out of the way. I'm Tomlin's Nyback, and I'll see you soon. 365 days towards racial change. Bye-bye.